Halloween, but if candy and costumes aren't your thing, maybe ghosts are.
Can never have too many ghosts on Halloween. And Fox 43's BRYANNA Gallagher is joining us live from the John Wright restaurant in York County this morning, a place known by many to be haunted. Bree, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Well, I don't really know what's going to happen here this morning. There are many things that could happen. We're in the River Room at the John Wright restaurant, and this place is known by many people to be pretty haunted. Joining us this morning is BRIGID. She is with Ghost Gals, and you notice that she has this piece of equipment here this morning. She is a ghost investigator, and you guys have been here and have experienced some pretty crazy things. Talk a little bit about that and what we have here this morning.
Oh, yeah, Brianna. Well, right now in front of us, we're mapping actually Jenny on the SLS 3D imaging cam system. And you can see she disappears in and out of the shot. She's doing thermal imaging in front of us with her Seek. We also have FLIR cameras for thermal imaging. Basically, we have caught some amazing evidence, some of the best evidence we've ever caught. Every year we come, we like to highlight a historical building or location in the South Central Pennsylvania area for the Halloween time of year. And this year we decided, you know, we love Jim's place, so we came down to the John Wright Inn and we did an investigation and we caught amazing evidence in just 3 hours of time. Unheard of amazing evidence in just 3 hours of time.
Oh yeah, and we actually have a piece from your investigation. If you guys can pull that up, we'll be quiet for just a second. You can actually hear what is believed to be a little girl who haunts this room singing. Take a listen.
For any children that were here, can you come out and talk to us? For any children that were here, can you come out and talk to us?
So after BRIGID is done talking, I don't know if you guys just heard that, you could definitely hear a girl in the background is what it sounds like, singing and kind of humming. Yeah,
well, Jenny was talking to her and Jenny was asking her to come forward, and we were both talking to her as mothers. And she responded to us several times throughout the night. We got at least 5 Class A EVPs, and we had 2 instances with the camera, which we will be talking about later.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we touch on this equipment that we have back here? You guys are noticing these green and red dots. What does this do?
Jenny, do you want to talk to her about what?
Oh, okay, we're going to go over to Jenny.
Yeah.
Hi. This is a light grid. So if you were to walk in front of it, your shadow would block out the light, but you would still have green and red dots on you. However, when an entity walks in front of it, it's completely blocked out. And we have in the past gotten some very good evidence on camera of the lights being blocked out with nothing in front of it.
Wow, that's super crazy. I know you guys have been doing this for a long time, and you've mentioned that this has been one of the craziest and unique locations that you've been to where you've experienced that activity. So we are here all morning long. You guys are going to want to stick around. We're hoping that we're going to get some activity to show you guys. Of course, right before we were just on air a few moments ago, we saw a shadow here in this, but stick around because we have plenty more hours to continue our ghost investigations here this morning at the John Wright restaurant. Reporting live in Helm Township, York County, BRYANNA Gallagher.
Have you seen any ghosts yet this morning?
Hey, good morning, guys. Yes, I actually have, to answer your question, Matt. Before we dive into where we're at right now, right after we wrap things up the last hour, the little girl that was haunting the upstairs came out, and we have video. We'll pull that up for you guys later. She came up and held my hand. So yes, it was very freaky. We'll show that later, but joining us right now, BRIGID, we are in the kitchen of Wrightsville, John Wright restaurant this morning, and this is what happens to be probably the most talked about area where people have experienced the most crazy interactions with ghosts here this morning, BRIGID.
Absolutely, absolutely. First off, I have to say, we've been investigating Gettysburg for 10 years. We've investigated hundreds of locations throughout South Central Pennsylvania. This by far, and I am calling this, I've already talked to Jim about this, we are deeming this South Central PA's most haunted location. The amount of evidence that we obtained in a 4-hour period is just incredible. It's crazy. It's off the books. Our good friends from Ghost Nation, Jay, Dave, and Steve were here. At the time that they came here, they got evidence. They didn't get a ton, but again, you can't ask ghosts to perform. But on our investigation, as you will see, and as you can go back to Fox's website, you'll be able to see, we just we've got 2 of our cameras moved, and that is our camera right here. As you can see, this is our Ghost Cam Pro by one of our sponsors, Ghost Hunter Apps. This is the view of our camera, and as you'll see by the video that you're going to see, it actually got knocked during our investigation about half a foot forward. And what you see in the video is the video lights up green because the actual system detects motion. And when it does that, it highlights, it's supposed to highlight the motion in green, except it wasn't one thing moving. The entire camera moved, so the whole screen turned green.
Let's start walking back here. If you guys haven't pulled that video up yet, can you guys pull up that video that Bridget is referencing? You guys can see the green movement. Talk about that again.
And this is right where the camera was. It was in this same exact position. And this whole thing exactly set up like this, got hit about half a foot to a foot forward. It almost looks like during the video while you're watching it, like it zooms in, but that's not being done by us. This was actually knocked by what we believe to be a spirit. At the same time, within that hour, our camera upstairs, the same exact thing happened to our camera, our handy cam upstairs. So we had 2 cameras, 1 location, knocked, same night, 4 hours, 5 Class A EVPs, 3 or 4 hours. And also, as Jenny's going to talk to you about our equipment really quick, our shadow detector on the floor went off over 20 times that night in this area, which she'll talk to you about now.
Yes, oh my gosh, really quickly, Jenny, because we do have to wrap up. The shadow box was going off. You guys had to come back in here multiple times to turn that off.
We did. We would turn it off, go back, sit down, and 5 minutes later, it was going off again. It's that little device there. It's going to have a red light if something goes in front of it. And it's also going to set off a little alarm. We also have a couple REM pods out, so if the spirit wants, oh, she's demonstrating. If the spirit wants, they can touch it, and that will light up. We also have our geosphere balls out. I guess I kind of repeated myself there. They pick up any sensitivity, so if there's any type of movement or jarring, they will light up in different colors.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. And we were just speaking with Jim moments ago, and he said just the other week he was in here and nearly a 25-pound tub of oil was on a shelf. He was nowhere near it, and it just toppled over. So clearly this room is very active with spirits, and we'll be here all morning long at the John Wright restaurant, so stick around. We'll be showing you so much more of our investigations here this morning on Halloween. It's Halloween, so what better place to start our Halloween morning? We're joined by Ghost Gals this morning, Brigid and Jenny, and why is this place in particular so cool and important for us to be here this morning?
Well, because it was back in the early 1900s. It was involved in the Industrial Revolution, and you know, they had looms here, and the children, you know, unfortunately, that's why we think there's children ghosts here. You know, they use children to go in between the machinery and fix the machinery, and sadly, we don't know if it's actually on record or not, but those children would unfortunately get caught in the machinery sometimes and pass away.
I know, and you guys have been investigating for about 30 years now, but this location in particular, you have experienced a lot of activity.
We have gotten more activity in a short amount of time in this place than we have in any of our other locations. We did a 3-hour investigation not long ago, and we just kept getting, you know, thing after thing, you know, with the SLS, with the thermal, with EVPs, with our night camera. It was totally amazing.
And Brigid, what are you holding right here? Kind of talk about this.
This is our SLS. It's a 3D imaging camera. It maps out images, basically primarily, if you want to put it in layman's terms, it maps out the human body and or a possible spirit. So, and it uses special IR sensors to do that in the dark. It also does thermal imaging here as well, as you can see there. And basically, it picks up spirits. And, you know, some people are for it, some people are against it in the paranormal community. We have had very good results with it. As you've seen yourself personally walking around this morning, it is very hard to pick something up on this. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, we walked around for an hour and picked nothing up until we came to that certain area with you, and you were standing in the corner over there back behind us, and then something appeared next to you, and then we talked to it, and then every time I asked it to appear, a couple seconds later it would appear, and then I asked it to touch your hand, and then it touched your hand. So, I mean, you know, some people can argue for it or against it, but we find the technology to work, and we know there are anomalies with it where it can map out some things, but we know what those anomalies are that can be false positives. So we do know the difference.
I mean, we firsthand witnessed how this works about an hour or two ago. So, I mean, when we first got here, we weren't seeing like too much, but then all of a sudden it was like, bam. And you can't, you know, really tell when stuff's going to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it's amazing. That's why I'm saying for us, we've been doing this for so many years. We've been to Ohio State Reformatory, some of the most haunted locations on earth, and Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, all up and down the East Coast, all over the United States, actually. And when we come into a location, and we're only here because, again, like I said, to reiterate to anybody that's watching Fox or Facebook, we come into these locations every Halloween to help bring about an awareness, whether they're historical location or a business. And we come into these locations, we may investigate them one night, 2 nights. It may be somewhere we've investigated a bunch of times. This location we investigated one evening, about 4 hours, and to get 5 Class A EVPs and 2 cameras. One that was kicked almost half a foot to a foot forward, another that was banged, the table was banged so hard that it changed the angle of the camera and actually made the picture lighter because the camera moved, and the camera image got lighter because of the movement. So those things just don't happen. Sometimes it takes going back to a location 5 and 6 times to capture all those things. That happened in one investigation one night between 3 and 4 hours. So yeah, so we deem this location Central PA's most haunted location by far, hands down. I mean, and like I said, we've done Gettysburg for 10 years and heavily documented most of the buildings in Gettysburg, surrounding Gettysburg, Gettysburg battlefield, 10 years of it. So absolutely.
And even with us just being here for the first time this morning, in the first few hours, we saw stuff, which is pretty crazy. So why don't we test this out real quick right now? Should we kind of do what we did earlier this morning? Do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can test out.
Just tell me where.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just standing over here, and you guys are going to call for the.
We can get her back.
Okay.
Little girl.
So right now they're calling for the ghost that is known to haunt John Wright Restaurant.
Will you come back and stand next to Brianna again and hold her hand again? Remember, you were doing it earlier before. Will you come back and stand next to her? And as you can see, there's Brianna on the thermal.
Right now, Bridget's pointing to the thermal camera. Are you guys seeing anything?
And there she is mapped out, you know, in the just regular IR.
Okay. So earlier this morning, and we pulled this up in the last hour on Fox 43 Morning News, I was standing in this general area, and they were calling for this ghost that they believe is a little girl who haunts this room, and she appeared to come up and try to hold my hand. And then they called for her again. She disappeared. She came back, and she was...
Oh, wow. It just drained our equipment and shut our equipment down.
What?
It just totally drained our battery. And that was half full when I started charging it an hour ago.
Oh, my gosh.
And this is another thing that occurs on camera sometimes. It's just funny. Another thing that happens when we're in locations, a lot of the times when there's a lot of spirit activity, pieces of equipment will get drained, and it'll just happen like that. And as you see, it just shut down and stuff.
And you were just charging this, right?
I was just charging it. It was half charged. When I plugged it in, it was charging for an hour.
And it appeared, and it said battery is starting to run low, and then it just totally shut off.
It didn't even give us that 5%
Yeah.
warning. It just went boop
And
like that.
it shut off. And again, that can happen when there's a lot of activity in the area.
Sweat right now.
And again, but that goes to show you for people who don't believe in this piece of equipment, nothing showed up when you were standing there this time, but yet before it kept on showing up, it kept on trying to grab your hand earlier this morning. So again, I say for people who want to argue this piece of equipment, you saw how hard it is to map out someone on this. It really is. It's not really that easy. And you know, so now we have equipment malfunctioning. We did catch something with you earlier this morning, so it's great. Not only do we have it already documented before you came this morning, but now you actually had personal experiences yourself that occurred this morning. So I'd say, you know, I think we're pretty dead on with our PA's.
Oh, absolutely. I think
PA's
we're
most haunted location there.
yes, and we'll be having some more stuff later on this morning on Fox 43 Morning News. We'll actually be speaking with Jim. He's the owner here at 8 o'clock. He'll be cooking up some things for us because, again, John Wright is a restaurant, and they're going to have a yummy menu for everyone this Halloween, so we'll be trying some of that. But he also has some pretty spooky encounters.
There are many ways to celebrate Halloween. If candy and costumes aren't your thing, maybe ghost star.
Fox 43's BRYANNA Gallagher met up with paranormal investigators, the Ghost Gals, at a place in York County known by a lot of folks to be haunted.
There are many stories about the John Wright restaurant in Pelham Township, about its history, ghosts, and unexplainable things that go bump in the night. So in honor of Halloween, we decided to check it out for ourselves.
Touch her hand. Stand next to her. Oh my God, she was just there. Did you go? Yes.
That thermal image you see on the SLS camera is believed to be the little girl, just one of many ghosts who haunt the John Wright restaurant.
Hang around the rosy, pocket full of posies.
John Wright has been on the Ghost Gals radar for about 3 years now. They've heard stories and about other investigations, but they were shocked by the amount of evidence they got when they came here.
When we came here and I went upstairs, one of the first things I said to Jenny, I was like, holy. I got extremely nauseated upstairs.
Brigid and Jennifer have been investigating paranormal activity and ghosts for nearly 30 years. Both agree that there is something extra spooky about South Central PA, especially at John Wright.
Most active locations in the John Wright restaurant are the River Room upstairs, as well as the central kitchen area where our shadow detector went off over 20 times.
Jim, the owner of the restaurant, says he never really believed in ghosts, but something later changed that.
There was one day I was setting the alarm with my sous chef. He was walking out the door. I set the alarm. I go outside the door and I hear a little girl's voice that said, "Don't leave me." And I kind of lost it.
John Wright has some history. Before becoming a restaurant, Jim says it was a silk mill. However, it's not clear how many ghosts haunt it and their stories.
1916. So you're pre-child labor laws. I don't know what happened in the building, but some of the people obviously never left.
There are any children that were here.
Brigid and Jenny say John Wright Restaurant is the only place they've experienced this much activity in such a little amount of time, and we experienced that too here this morning in just a few hours. Reporting in Pelham Township, York County, BRYANNA Gallagher, Fox 43 News.